business in Denver and how he hated the service at a restaurant called Azar's. He remembered the 1976 film Car Wash that he watched at a theater in Colorado. He could still picture the shelves at the University of Colorado Library, where he once read back issues of restaurants and institutions. Piece by piece, a fragmented map of his past began to form. Colorado, the 1970s through mid-80s. After that, a void.
Okay,
but
one
they
of
would
those
need to rely on Benjamin's memory to determine who he was if Colleen Fitzpatrick was successful. She looked through archived local newspapers across Indianapolis, Boulder, and Denver. She contacted motor vehicle departments in 3 states and had them run facial recognition scans against their license databases. Nothing matched. But still, Benjamin remained certain of one thing. His birth date, August 29, 1948. Fitzpatrick combed through birth records, church registries, military draft cards, and more. She passed out flyers at restaurant conventions, knowing he once worked in food service, and even mailed them to shelters throughout Indiana. At Catherine's suggestion, Benjamin even underwent hypnosis, but the sessions yielded no breakthroughs. Next, Colleen turned to Benjamin's body. He had no tattoos, no wedding ring, but he did have scars. One above the collarbone looked like it came from a cervical discotomy. 2 crescent-shaped scars along his elbow likely came from surgery after a fall. Possibly the loading dock accident he vaguely remembered from Indiana. An X-ray from metal screws in the joint, but they were too generic to trace. So, Colleen dug deeper still, into Benjamin's DNA. The FBI had already run his sample through CODIS, their 7 million profile database, with no luck. But Colleen wasn't searching for a once-volunteer labor. Colleen's scientific curiosity evolved into full obsession. It was only a matter of time, she said. She believed she was on the verge of solving the mystery. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, Benjamin abruptly and mysteriously cut off all contact with Colleen Fitzpatrick. This came as a shock to his roommate and caretaker, Catherine Slater. Did he really want help, or had he found some strange comfort in this limbo? When she finally asked why he didn't seem eager to uncover the truth, Benjamin told her, "Well, you know, I've been in this identity, Benjamin Kyle, for a long time. And even if they figure out who I am, I'm probably going to feel like Benjamin Kyle." At first, it sounded reasonable, but Slater began for help. Not just to be found, but to survive. With strict contact with the local news station,
Are you
which
trying
aired a
to
short
give a
segment
grandma
about
like me
Benjamin.
a run
Watching
for her
that
money?
broadcast was Josh
Or perhaps you just
the
want a
owner of
scratch
quirky
card.
seafood restaurant called Crazy Fish. Something about Benjamin's story struck a chord. So Shroot offered him a job
Come
washing
back
dishes.
soon.
It was a gamble.
Chatting
but
with
Benjamin
young people is a delight.
At Crazy Fish, he quickly became the best worker in the kitchen. He was knowledgeable about every piece of equipment. He stayed late, eagerly accepted every task, and brought a peculiar charm to his workplace. But John Lindstrom's selfless efforts didn't stop there. To hopefully get his story out to an audience that maybe all the TV shows missed, the young filmmaker helped Benjamin set up a Facebook page and even got him on a Reddit Ask Me Anything thread, which exploded with activity. Redditors jumping at the opportunity to solve a mystery. How upset does it make you that you can't connect with your past life at all? Are you upset that no one has tried to look for you? I don't know. Puzzled, I guess. Mostly I stay so busy that I don't think about it, because I still have to get on with living. 10 years after his discovery, Benjamin Kyle had become a kind of public mystery mascot, featured by CNN, BBC, NPR, and even Dr. Phil. Each passing year, the hope of solving his identity slowly faded. He didn't
All
miss a
things
family.
come to an end,
He didn't
even
do
time
what
itself.
is. What would you do? Suddenly remembered your previous life and found out that you gave yourself amnesia on purpose? And would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck? I don't play the what-if games. They can drive you crazy. One horse-sized duck. But if I had a horse-sized duck, I'd sell it. And what do you think?
One horse-sized duck.
If you have memories of those 2 specific scenes, why on earth haven't you gone to them to recover your memories by now? I understand money can be difficult when you can't make any and such, but it really seems like the most logical course of action to go where your memories indicate. Up until very recently, I wouldn't have been able to go because I'm legally driven. To fly, you need an ID. I'm in the Southeast and own an airplane. I might be able to take you from Florida to Indianapolis. I think it's a fascinating case, and I'd love to help. No ID required to fly in a private aircraft. Reddit didn't just listen. They mobilized, launching a WhiteHouse.gov petition asking the federal government to issue Benjamin a new social security number. Everyone needed to sign the petition to help this man out. Thank you. He needed 25,000 signatures within 30 days for an official response. He got 18,000, and while that was still impressive, it unfortunately was not enough. The petition expired. Do you still have hopes that you will find your original identity? Are there any not yet exhausted search strategies? If so, what? I think if anything's found out now, it'll be a stroke of luck. And then, as luck would have it, Colleen Fitzpatrick, the person who claimed to have been on the verge of solving the mystery before Benjamin mysteriously cut off all contact, got wind of his story gaining traction on the internet and began telling the media that Benjamin didn't want to be helped. He just liked the attention. Benjamin responded by confessing on his Facebook the reason why he had ties with Colleen. According to him, she had begun withholding access to his data and exploiting his vulnerability. Colleen, of course, denied these claims, but this public fallout turned out to be the turning point in Benjamin's case, because this would be how a woman named CC Moore would get involved. She was a genetic genealogist and TV personality, but unlike Colleen, CC specialized in autosomal DNA, the kind passed down from both parents. She worked with a team of volunteers she called search angels, building out hypothetical family trees. Cece and Colleen had known each other previously, but they would soon become enemies because of Benjamin's case. Cece was appalled by what Colleen had done to Benjamin, and so she set out to help him herself. Cece traced Benjamin's DNA to his Powell ancestry, identifying deep southern roots and narrowing the pool. But Benjamin's case remained stubborn, longer than any she'd ever tackled. Still, Cece insisted. It's only a matter of time. By May of 2015, the Crazy Fish restaurant had closed its doors for good. Nowhere to go, Benjamin Kyle knew Josh Schrute, the man who once gave him a job when no one else would. But the arrangement was beginning to frame. When the New Republic journalist returned to Jacksonville to check in with Benjamin, he found Schrute lounging away.
Get a guide if you're not familiar with the area. The biggest one in history. Where's Aggie gone this time? You might want to get a guide if you're not familiar with the area. The biggest one in history.
Where do we come from? And where are we going?
So, you left amicably? You left amicably? She'd say that. I don't know what she'd say. Then, Benjamin walked on. Sure, eyes narrowed behind his sunglasses, whispered, "Sometimes I wonder if he's smarter than all of us." Without the Crazy Fish to give instruction, Benjamin's life shrank. Once a week, life would be hours across Jacksonville. Otherwise, he lived on oatmeal, picking textured vegetable food from a downtown health store. He lost 30 pounds in just 3 months. In a second Reddit AMA, a user asked, "Do you fear death more because you're old and no longer remember having lived life?"
The biggest one in history.
Once he could know.
What?
You might want to get a guide if you're not familiar with the area. Where's Aggie gone this time?
Benjamin wasn't sure. You fear death more because you're old and no longer remember having lived life. Once he could no longer work, Benjamin wasn't sure.
The biggest
Living on someone else's substance is different. As much as I need money now, I should just claim I was kidnapped by aliens and brainwashed by the CIA. I could make off that. But there was something deeper at play. Something uncomfortable. People needed Benjamin to become someone. But maybe he didn't want to. He he was afraid of what he might return to. The past could be worse than the unknown. Maybe, in a strange way, his mind had done him a favor. A decade had passed since he had woken into this life behind a
The
burden.
abyss is like the world's shadow.
Attention was fading.
It's always there, and
BK's
it will
identity
never perish.
might die with him. Then, one morning, June 2015, everything changed. C.C. Moore, genetic genealogist, puzzle solver, leader of the Search Angels, called the journalist with 3 words. We found him. For a moment, he didn't understand. Then it sank in. The impossible had happened. Cece had called Benjamin first, but he had hung up almost immediately. Now, he wasn't answering. She was worried. An hour later, Benjamin was on the phone with the journalist. His voice was trembling. He said he was in shock. He had so many thoughts about how he was going to handle the information and was having a hard time focusing. Ironically, the breakthrough had come from a feud. A member of the Powell family in South Carolina had seen a Facebook post about Cece's clash with Colleen Fitzpatrick. That Powell woman had happened to be on her way to a Powell family reunion and collected several DNA samples from distant cousins. With those samples, Cece was able to fill in missing branches in Benjamin's family tree. Benjamin was so relieved, and for the first time, he cried. They narrowed it down. A mistake in the Powell family tree had misidentified a great-grandson. Correcting the record led them to Indiana and to one school yearbook. There, in the 1967 Jefferson High School annual, was Benjamin's unmistakable face. He had been right about almost all of the few things he had remembered over the years, except his name. William was the second son of Furman and Marjorie Powell, born in Lafayette, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. He had attended Catholic school, just like he suspected. His father died in a boating accident in 1969. His mother passed away from cancer in 1996. He had 3 brothers, like he'd said since the beginning. 1 died young, 2 were still alive, 1 in Florida, 1 still living in the Powell family home in Indiana. Unfortunately, though, it seemed the birthday Benjamin had repeated for years, exactly 10 years before Michael Jackson's, was odd. Cece couldn't find a birth certificate yet, but 2 genealogy websites listed William Powell's birth year as 1951, not 1948. Still, after 11 years of wandering, suspicion, and doubt, the man once called Burger King Doe finally had a name. In the hours after C.C. Moore told him his name, Benjamin wasn't entirely sure what to feel. He sounded like a man dizzy with emotional vertigo. On the phone, his voice trembled, breath hitching in ways that suggested tears. He said he was in shock. After 11 years, the man with no past suddenly had one. But when Cece mentioned William Powell's birth year, 1951, his tone dimmed. For a decade, Benjamin had been clinging to a single, unshakable memory, that he was born in 1948. He needed that to be true. Because when you lose everything, even one fact can become your whole identity. The next day, Cece called back with news that it seemed like a cosmic joke. She had made a mistake. William Brent Powell had been born in 1951, but the man who once called himself Benjamin, William Burgess Powell, had in fact been born in 1948. One of the few things he'd clung to had been right, and that small correction meant more to Benjamin than anyone could have imagined. In the fall of 2015, Benjamin, or should we say William, returned to Lafayette, Indiana, the town he had fled decades earlier. His older brother, Furman, answered the door of their childhood home. A crumbling Queen Anne house coated with ivy, its porch sagging like a tired sigh. Furman didn't invite William inside. "It's bad in there," he said quietly. But they shared breakfast downtown, over coffee and eggs. They talked about their shared history. The Powell family's history wasn't exactly pretty. Their father, Furman Sr., was a World War II flight engineer. Their mother, Marjorie, a Navy photographer. Their house had been tense, haunted by hoarding, emotional coldness, and violence. Marjorie had doted on William, her favorite. Furman Sr., however, took out his pent-up rage on the boy. Furman never described the abuse in detail, but William had fled the house at 16. In his 20s, William Powell worked odd jobs around Lafayette. A janitor at a strip club, a handyman, a warehouse loader. In 1976, he vanished. One day, he just missed dinner. Days later, his red '66 Rambler was was found abandoned near Oakdale Dam. Furman filed a missing persons report, but William wasn't missing.
Fish and fun! A dash of frosting! A burst of flavor! Take your true form! Do your master's bidding!
That's more like it. Annihilate. Am I still too weak?
The pinnacle of excellence! Transfiguration! Cryo incarnate! Extinguish! Off to the freezer! Unleash!
He said, keep these for me. One day I'm going to want them back. And then, for nearly 3 decades, William Powell disappeared into the American void. Between 1983 and 2004, there's no record of William's existence. No taxes, no address, no phone, no debts, no crimes. Nothing. Experts say it's rare, but
Surprise baptism! A dash of frosting! Goose on the loose! My will embodied! Do your master's bidding! Search! This should be fun! A burst of flavor! By ordinance divine!
One cousin handed the family tree. William ran his fingers over it. For the first time in years, his history wasn't a question. It was printed in ink. At the end of the year, William moved into a modest 2-bedroom house in his hometown. A short bike ride from his childhood home. He made friends with neighbors, fed their dogs, fixed their appliances, but he never told them he had once been. He continued to avoid stepping inside the house where it all began. William worried that returning home might reawaken old memories. Not all memories, he believed, should be remembered. Sometimes he would get lost in Lafayette. The streets had changed, businesses were gone. But more than that,
Let's stir things a little amuse bouche. Goose on the loose. Shift. Cryo incarnate. West wind, carrots, a dash of frosting, a burst of flavor. Take your true form. Do your master's bidding.
that question was everything. Now, it's just a shadow trailing behind the man he's chosen to become. He will recover all the pieces. He may never recall the 20 years that went missing, but he found his name. He found his brother, and maybe, just maybe, he found peace. If you enjoyed this video, then consider hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. It's the best thing you can do to help us keep making more videos, like this one about the mysterious disappearance of the $30 million jackpot winner and how the internet cracked the case by luring the suspect online.
Where do we come from? And where are we going?
This should be fun. Off to the freezer. Goose on the loose. Manifest. Extinguish. A little amuse bouche. The pinnacle of excellence. My will embodied. Cryo incarnate. Search. true form. Annihilate.
Mhm. Mm.
Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier, was a college dropout who managed to amass a fortune that's difficult to explain before dying mysteriously in his jail cell in 2019. He wasn't a rapper like P. Diddy, yet he owned 2 private islands, multiple private jets, and homes all over the world. He befriended presidents, princes, scientists, celebrities, businessmen, and billionaires, and was described by prosecutors in 2019 as a man of nearly infinite means. Yet despite years of investigations, no one can say with certainty how he made his money. Bloomberg wrote after his arrest in 2019 that for all his infamy, there are scant details of how he made his money. The FT similarly wrote around the same time that this question has confounded journalists for decades. Given his links to big names and the subsequent allegations against him, there's been major public interest in the life and the wealth of Jeffrey Epstein, along with his crimes and the network of influential enablers that surrounded him. Epstein was born in Brooklyn, the son of a groundskeeper and a stay-at-home mom. He graduated high school and briefly attended Cooper Union and NYU before dropping out of both. After falsely claiming to have a college degree, he briefly taught math and physics at a private high school in New York before being dismissed after 2 years for poor performance. He went on to work for a few years at Bear Stearns, and after being laid off, claimed to be running a money management firm for the ultra-wealthy. His firm's operations were opaque, its client list never disclosed, and its assets never verified. He had only one confirmed client, and everything else is a fog of speculation, secretive offshore companies, whispered blackmail theories, and a social circle that included everyone from US presidents to British royalty. The controversy over Epstein's death became a hot topic once again when Donald Trump returned to office in January. Trump chose top law enforcement officials like Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, and Kash Patel, who earned much of their political capital by encouraging conspiracy theories about the deep state. Trump himself had implied on multiple occasions that there was information in the Epstein files that would take down his political opponents.
Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
After teasing that a big announcement was in the pipeline, the Department of Justice and FBI finally came out a few weeks ago with an announcement that there was nothing to see. There was no client list, no one was implicated in the files, and Epstein had taken his own life, contradicting long-held conspiracy theories about the case. When the FBI later released clearly doctored footage from the only functioning camera near Epstein's prison cell the night he died, the MAGA base were enraged that there was a cover-up, and some were possibly disappointed that Kash Patel was such a sloppy video editor. There's a point at which you just have to hire someone in who knows what they're doing. As public pressure mounts and conspiracy theories swirl, one question remains at the heart of the scandal, and that is, how did Jeffrey Epstein really make his money? Sometimes it can be difficult to find time to learn new things, but today's sponsor, Brilliant.org, makes it easy to learn with quick, fun lessons that you can do anywhere right on your phone. Brilliant is an interactive learning app designed to help you not just learn, but really understand complex topics. They have thousands of lessons so you can follow your curiosity wherever it leads you. You learn by trying things out for yourself, which is much more effective than just watching a lecture. Give your mind a daily workout with interactive courses in math, programming, science, AI, data, and more. You'll become a better thinker and problem solver, one hands-on lesson at a time. Whether you're learning to translate your ideas into code, build formulas, design electrical circuits, run simulations with data, or explore cutting-edge topics like AI. To try everything Brilliant has to offer free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/Patrick or scan the QR code on screen, or you can click on the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. When federal prosecutors charged Jeffrey Epstein in 2019, they described him as the orchestrator of a vast trafficking operation that exploited hundreds of underage girls. Authorities claimed to have gathered a trove of damning evidence that included photographic and video evidence, financial records, and digital files that allegedly pointed to a broader network of enablers and clients. This July, the Department of Justice and FBI released a memo stating that after an exhaustive review of over 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, they found no incriminating client list and no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals. This sudden shift in narrative after years of speculation and public expectation has only deepened suspicion and fueled renewed conspiracy theories. Despite the opacity around the origins of his wealth, the scale of Jeffrey Epstein's fortune was undeniable. A filing in his criminal case pegged his net worth at roughly $560 million, while the New York Times later estimated it at $600 million. His assets included a portfolio of luxury homes, including a $77 million Manhattan townhouse where he was arrested, a $12 million estate in Palm Beach, a $17 million ranch in New Mexico, and an $8.6 million apartment in Paris. His two private islands, Little St. James and Great St. James, were valued at $86 million at the time of his death. He owned 3 private jets, a helicopter, and a fleet of at least 15 vehicles. His most famous plane, dubbed the Lolita Express, was not just an ordinary private jet. It was a Boeing 727-100, which, if kitted out as a commercial jet, would have held 150 passengers. These holdings paint the picture of a man with immense financial power. But was there any clear or credible explanation of how he acquired it? Although Epstein was often described as a billionaire, even prosecutors hesitated to confirm that label. His firm, Financial Trust Company, was based in the US Virgin Islands and never released audited statements or performance data. This lack of transparency, combined with conflicting reports about the size of his staff and losses during the 2008 financial crisis, cast serious doubt on whether his fortune ever reached the scale he claimed. One of the most troubling aspects of the Epstein saga is how long it took for federal charges to be brought against him, despite mounting evidence and dozens of victims. In 2007 and 2008, Epstein faced serious allegations in Florida, but instead of being prosecuted federally, he struck a controversial non-prosecution agreement with then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta, who would later serve as Donald Trump's labor secretary. The deal allowed Epstein to plead guilty to lesser state charges of soliciting prostitution, resulting in just 13 months in a county jail, with work release privileges and a requirement to register as an ex-offender. This agreement was kept secret from Epstein's victims, a violation of federal victims' rights laws. At the time, Epstein was represented by a legal dream team that included Alan Dershowitz and Kenneth Starr, both of whom wielded significant political and legal influence. Prosecutors in 2019 were accused by Epstein's lawyers of trying to redo the Miami case when a deal had already been struck. The leniency of the original plea deal, the secrecy surrounding it, and the powerful figures involved have since become central to a wave of conspiracy theories, many of which question whether Epstein was protected by a broader network of elites. Epstein's early career offers the first glimpse into the improbable rise that would later define his life. Born in the Coney Island neighborhood of Brooklyn in 1953 to working-class parents, Epstein dropped out of university without earning a degree. Despite this, he landed a job teaching math and physics at the elite Dalton School in Manhattan in the early 1970s. There, he caught the attention of a parent, Alan Greenberg, the chairman of Bear Stearns, who helped him secure an entry-level position at the investment bank after he lost his teaching job in 1976. Epstein rose rapidly, becoming a partner within 4 years, an unusually fast ascent, especially for someone with no formal financial training. But just 1 year after making partner, his career at Bear Stearns came to an abrupt end. According to the New York Times, Epstein told the SEC during an insider trading investigation that he had been let go for 3 reasons. He had lent money to a friend to buy stock, there were irregularities with his expense account, and there were rumors of an affair with a secretary. Though never charged with wrongdoing, the episode marked the beginning of a pattern. Epstein's ability to gain access to elite institutions and powerful people, often without the credentials or transparency typically required. After leaving Bear Stearns, Epstein launched his own firm, Intercontinental Assets Group, which claimed to specialize in recovering stolen or embezzled funds. By the late 1980s, he had formed J. Epstein and Company, the investment firm that would become the claimed source of his wealth and elite connections. Epstein announced at the time that he only accepted accounts worth over $1 billion. It's worth noting that there were fewer than 500 billionaires worldwide at the time, making his supposed client base extraordinarily exclusive. In reality, it would appear that Epstein had only one major client, Les Wexner, the billionaire founder of L Brands. For more than a decade, Epstein served as Wexner's personal money manager and advisor, reportedly earning hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. Their relationship was unusually close, so much that Wexner transferred ownership of a $77 million Manhattan mansion to Epstein's Virgin Islands-based company for no recorded payment. According to the New York Times, a 2002 corporate filing revealed that Epstein's asset management firm had just $88 million in shareholder contributions and around 20 employees, far fewer than the 150 claimed in media profiles at the time. The contradictions between Epstein's public image and the limited evidence of his financial operations only deepen the mystery of the true source of his wealth. In 1987, Jeffrey Epstein was hired as a high-paid consultant by Stephen Hoffenberg, then CEO of Towers Financial Corporation, a Manhattan-based debt collection agency that would later be exposed as the operator of one of the largest Ponzi schemes in U.S. history. Hoffenberg paid Epstein $25,000 a month and set him up with an office, describing him as his wingman and closest friend during that period. Together, the two men attempted high-profile corporate takeovers, including failed bids for Pan Am and Emery Air Freight. But behind the scenes, Towers Financial was raising more than $400 million by selling fraudulent bonds and promissory notes to investors. This money was used not to fund legitimate operations, but to pay off earlier investors, cover operating costs, and finance lavish lifestyles, including private jets, luxury homes, and expensive cars. Hoffenberg later claimed that Epstein was the mastermind behind the scheme's financial engineering, describing him as the architect of both the insurance bond fraud and a stock manipulation strategy. Court records and attorneys involved in the case confirmed that Epstein's name appeared on organizational charts and that he held a senior role at the firm. Yet despite his proximity to the fraud, Epstein was never charged. This episode is one of the most glaring examples of Epstein's ability to operate in elite financial circles while avoiding legal consequences, even when his business partner was convicted and spent 18 years in prison. While Les Wexner is the only confirmed long-term client of Jeffrey Epstein's, evidence suggests that he had financial dealings with several other wealthy individuals, though the nature and scope of these relationships remains murky. Beyond Wexner, the New York Times reports that Epstein briefly served as co-trustee for Johnson & Johnson heiress Elizabeth Johnson, appearing on deeds for 14 parcels of lands in Dutchess County, New York, before resigning in 1998. Epstein also had ties with Leon Black, the billionaire co-founder of Apollo Global Management. Black is reported to have paid Epstein $158 million in fees, which he claims were for things like tax advice and estate planning. It's somewhat surprising that Jeffrey Epstein, a man with no obvious tax experience, would get hired as a tax advisor by someone like Leon Black, who you would imagine has access to the best tax lawyers in the world. On top of that, tax lawyers don't typically charge $158 million in fees. Now, paying someone for tax advice in no way implicates you for their crimes. I don't tend to shout it from the rooftops that years ago I hired the Boston Strangler to teach me how to play tennis. I had no idea what he was up to in his spare time, and I thought that he got that nickname because he held onto his racket so tightly. The FT reported in 2021 that Leon Black attributes a sizable part of his family wealth to Jeffrey Epstein, saying that as much as $2 billion of his then $8 billion fortune could be traced back to Epstein's financial acumen. Epstein allegedly also served as Mr. Black's advisor on issues like management of his yacht and plane, and helped settle a dispute over the ownership of a valuable sculpture. Even after Epstein's 2008 conviction, Black continued the relationship, later justifying it as a belief in second chances. In October 2020, after new revelations of Mr. Black's payments to Epstein prompted a number of pension funds to freeze further investments with Apollo, Black hired a law firm to investigate his behavior. They found that he had done nothing wrong. Mr. Black has characterized himself as someone who believes in giving people second chances, according to the lawyer's report. That's in keeping with other relationships Mr. Black has maintained with convicted criminals like Martha Stewart, a known associate of Snoop Dogg's, who was convicted in 2004 of a somewhat less serious crime than Epstein was, where she was convicted of conspiracy, obstruction, and 2 counts of lying to federal investigators about a stock trade. According to CNN, in 2023, Leon Black agreed to pay the Virgin Islands government $62.5 million, and in exchange, the government released Black from any current and future legal claims related to Jeffrey Epstein. According to a 2019 Vanity Fair article by William Cohen, Epstein's relationship with the hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin is a case study in how Epstein's social life interacted with his business. Cohen explains in the article that the 2 men were first introduced by Dubin's wife, a former Miss Sweden, and ex-girlfriend of Epstein's. Despite this awkward history, Epstein became deeply embedded in the Dubin family's life, reportedly even serving as godfather to their children, a claim that Dubin's representatives later denied. This friendship later translated into financial ties. Epstein allegedly received a fee for helping broker the sale of Dubin's hedge fund to JP Morgan Chase and invested hundreds of millions of dollars in funds run by Dubin's protégés. These transactions show how Epstein leveraged personal relationships to gain financial access and legitimacy, often without scrutiny of his background or the origins of his wealth. The article suggests that Epstein's social credibility allowed him to operate in elite financial circles despite the mystery about his wealth. Dubin's role in introducing Epstein to other fund managers and the subsequent large investments Epstein made in their funds show how Epstein's social network directly facilitated his financial dealings. Yet when Epstein's crimes resurfaced in 2019, the Dubins allegedly distanced themselves from him, claiming ignorance of his crimes. Epstein's name also appears in connection with a small emissions control company called Environmental Solutions Worldwide, in which he invested alongside individuals close to Leon Black. This company was the only one for which Epstein's firm ever filed an SEC disclosure. These scattered and often informal relationships, many involving vast sums of money but little documentation, underscore the mystery of Epstein's financial life. He operated in elite financial circles, moved hundreds of millions of dollars, and advised billionaires, all while leaving behind almost no public record. In 2019, Les Wexner accused Jeffrey Epstein of misappropriating more than $46 million while managing his personal finances. In a letter to members of his charitable foundation, Wexner disclosed that he had recovered some of the funds and had severed ties with Epstein in 2007, around the time that Epstein first faced allegations in Florida. Wexner had granted Epstein sweeping financial authority, including power of attorney over his assets. That same year, a lawsuit filed against Epstein's estate alleged that he had used underage women not only for abuse, but also as a means to ingratiate himself with powerful individuals so that he could gather compromising information for blackmail. These accusations suggest that a portion of Epstein's fortune may have been built not only on financial misconduct, but also on the strategic exploitation of his business associates. The Epstein scandal has evolved far beyond the realm of documented facts. Andrew Prokop at Vox writes that it's become the mother of all conspiracy theories. because it is something to captivate just about every political subculture. For some, he writes, it's a Me Too story of unchecked abuse by a powerful man. For others, a MAGA-fueled tale of liberal elites' depravity. The resistance sees it as a potential Trump scandal, while those suspicious of the deep state fixate on cover-ups and the possible involvement of intelligence agencies. Anti-Semites focus on Epstein's Jewish identity. The scandal's ambiguity and the elite circles Epstein moved in have made it fertile ground for conspiracy theories of every ideological stripe. MAGA loyalists have shown a remarkable ability to compartmentalize this scandal, obsessing over Epstein's ties to Democrats while ignoring Donald Trump's well-documented 15-year-long friendship with him. Trump's appointment of loyalists like Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino to top law enforcement roles only intensified the speculation. Their attempts to steer the narrative seem to have backfired on them, fueling outrage from the conservative base and internal finger-pointing. Democrats have their own awkward history with Epstein. Bill Clinton's post-presidency friendship with Epstein, including multiple flights on his private jet, became a liability the moment the allegations first surfaced in the late 2000s. At the time, Hillary Clinton was viewed as the party's future, so there was no desire to dwell on the Epstein scandal. It wasn't until Trump's team mishandled the scandal with their awkward attempts to change the subject that Democrats began to engage, as they could now see the Epstein scandal as a Trump scandal. It has now resulted in a frenzy of interest that Trump hasn't been able to escape. Among the more shadowy conspiracy theories is the claim that Epstein was connected to Israeli intelligence. These allegations gained renewed interest in 2023 when the formerly conservative commentator Tucker Carlson, who became radicalized last year while visiting a Russian supermarket, began publicly radicalized last
What? What the fuck? Oh, one of presidents of all time.
It has now resulted in a frenzy of interest that Trump hasn't been able to escape. Among the more shadowy conspiracy theories is the claim that Epstein was connected to Israeli intelligence. These allegations gained renewed interest in 2023 when the formerly conservative commentator Tucker Carlson, who became radicalized August last year while visiting a Russian supermarket, began publicly speculating about a Mossad-Epstein connection during a speech to Turning Point USA, claiming that every single person in Washington, D.C. believes that theory. The theory suggests that Epstein may have operated a blackmail scheme on behalf of Israeli intelligence, using underage women to entrap powerful individuals. A 2021 Rolling Stone article cited Stephen Hoffenberg, Epstein's former business associate and convicted Ponzi schemer, who claimed Epstein had ties to intelligence circles. While no concrete evidence has emerged to support the 21 Rolling Stone article cited Stephen Hoffenberg, Epstein's former business associate and convicted Ponzi schemer, who claimed Epstein had ties to intelligence circles. While no concrete evidence has emerged to support these claims, their persistence underscores the vacuum of transparency that continues to surround Epstein's life and death. One of the most persistent claims about Jeffrey Epstein is that he secretly recorded his guests in the private rooms of his house. In a 2019 interview, one of his victims said that she had seen hidden cameras in the guest bedrooms and bathrooms of his Manhattan townhouse, with live feeds.
I guess I'm not gonna play racing games today again. I have other games to play. So yeah, and they're not appropriate for streaming. So yeah, see you when I see you.